Hi everyone, my name is John Williamson. I am going to be presenting about the Real Life Social Skills Academy, the first course on conversation skills. Also be doing a little bit of a background on some of the context and some of the kind of the motives and reasons that we did this course and some of the approaches that we take from the background. So a little bit of information on this title page. We call this course Teaching Conversation Skills to Neurodiverse Populations, which is really what we were targeting with our course. The website for the course is down there, and you can also access the course on Therapro, of course, which is why we're doing this webinar, and that'll be mentioned more later in the presentation. Our email addresses, myself and my colleague Chris, who designed the course, those are both listed down below as well. So feel free to reach out to us even after this webinar if you would like any more information about the course or about anything I talk about tonight. So we're starting off with a poll question. It is a question about what your role is in working with neurodivergent populations. So we designed this course for a variety of different groups of people. It's designed for educators to be able to use it in classrooms. It's designed for therapists to be able to use it one-on-one with students. Both Chris and myself, I'm a speech therapist. Chris is an executive function coach with a special education background. Both of us use it one-on-one in our own social groups and one-on-one with students on our caseload, and we find that it works very well. And then it's also designed for use for families at home, for parents to use with their children, and even for older students to be able to do the course independently if they are motivated. So we would love to hear a little bit more about you and your backgrounds.
So it looks like about 91% of our audience is saying they are either an OT or an SLP. We have 5% saying teacher, 2% saying parent,
Okay.
and 2% saying neurodivergent individual.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. Very cool. So we got a good variety. So a lot of this will probably be review for those who are in professional fields working with this population, but hopefully some of it will be new as well. And then we'll also learn more about our course specifically, which hopefully will be helpful for you. So a little bit more about me. I'm the presenter today. My name is John Williamson. I've worked with a lot of students who have different communication challenges. I am based in Seattle area in Washington State, so it's 4 p.m. Over here. I know it's 7 p.m. on the East Coast. I worked at a autism and neurodevelopment multidisciplinary clinic, which was called Lakeside back then. And then I also worked at a specialized school for children who were having trouble in their districts. We would get kids for 2 to 4 years, try to build up their social emotional skills, and then send them back to their districts. And then I started my own private practice full time about 3 years ago, and it's called Social Skills Laboratory PLLC. I'm originally from Washington, and I got my degree from Northern Arizona University. And I really enjoy working with social emotional skills with students. So my website and information on my practice are down below there. And then my colleague, he couldn't be here tonight, but he helped with the course. You'll see him in some of the video examples. He also helped design the website and the platform for our course. His name is Chris Hanson. He's from Cleveland, Ohio, and moved to Seattle area in 2008. Just had a baby boy who's super cute. And he has a special education background, as I mentioned, in that he started a few years ago. He started a life coaching, executive function coaching business, working with a lot of teens and young adults that have executive function, social skill, ADHD related challenges. And so his business is doing really well. He's got 8 coaches now, and they support a lot of teens and young adults. We team up for a couple of groups that we run, and then we teamed up for this course. So his website and information on his business are down below there. The main learning objectives, what we're going to try to do in this webinar, I want to provide a framework to help different professionals and families understand the value of a concrete approach to learning conversation skills. One thing that we really wanted to do to make our course unique, because there are some other social skill courses out there, we really wanted to approach it in a very step-by-step concrete way, to take skills that are very abstract and very subjective and to try to make them as concrete as possible. I would love you guys to become familiar and comfortable with using the course. So if, say, you wanted to try the course out or you wanted to purchase the course, that after this webinar, you would be able to use the course with your students or independently or with your children, and that you would be comfortable going through the course, knowing how it works and how to use it in, say, a therapy session or in front of a classroom, for example. I want to help everyone gain a deeper contextual understanding and application of several specific lessons within our video course. So the second half of the presentation is going to be me walking through 3 different lessons that we picked out and kind of breaking down how we would, what the skills being taught in that lesson are and how we would teach those to students. I'd also hope that you guys would learn best approaches for encouraging students to generalize these skills. So in every one of our lessons, we do have a challenge that students can take out into the real world after they're done with the lesson video, and that they can be challenged to try it with somebody in the real world. So we'll talk about that later as well. So just to start, a little bit of a background on social communication, which is a topic that I'm really passionate about, and this influenced our course. A lot of the concepts that we will be talking about here will not be totally unfamiliar for a lot of you, but it is kind of the background that we came into designing the curriculum with. And some of these concepts will show up in the videos just in terms of how we present topics and in the way that we approach like social skills learning in students. So the first concept we talk about is social cognition, which focuses on how people process, store, and apply information about other people in social situations. So this could look like somebody remembering something about somebody else, which we talk about in some of our videos, and then they use that background memory that they have of that person to, say, start a conversation with them. So if Bill is walking into a classroom and he meets a student named Sam, and he remembers that he saw Sam in the chess club after school yesterday, he uses his social cognition to remember that, oh, I saw Sam. And then he quickly processes that, oh, man, probably Sam likes chess because I saw him in the chess club yesterday. And then he can then formulate a question that makes sense for Sam about chess because he knows that Sam likes chess. So that would just be one example of social cognition at work. And so that will be featured in our videos quite a bit. This idea kind of underlies everything, right? Some key parts of social communication that are incorporated in our videos and that we'll be talking about today, just as a brief background. We're going to talk about theory of mind in social situations. We're going to talk about how physical presence impacts social communication. We're going to talk about social rules in various contexts. And we're going to talk about the importance of words. And throughout all our videos and our course, you will see these concepts underlying all the lessons as well. So theory of mind with others, it's a lot of it has to do with perspective taking, being able to know what others are feeling or thinking, being able to put like states of mind on other people, and then being able to decide, are we thinking about the same thing? Or are we thinking about something different? Do my emotions match what the other person is doing, or are they completely different? And for students that have trouble with this, of course, it can lead to a lot of awkward or miscommunication opportunities. Also, we talk a lot about the idea of social mapping, the concept of our actions and words impact how others feel and react to me, and they all impact ultimately how I end up feeling. So if I do something, if I kind of blurt out in class a lot, for example, Bill blurts out in class a lot, and then the other students around him, they think he's funny for a little bit, but then they start to get kind of frustrated with him. And then they don't want to invite him to be in the projects. So then Bill gets left out of the group project and nobody wants him to be in the group. And then Bill ends up feeling kind of sad and left out during this project. And so Bill ultimately has a social consequence because of his repeated blurting out in class. And that social consequence is that he gets left out of group projects. And then he ends up feeling kind of sad that nobody likes him. So there's a boomerang effect to all our social behaviors. We also challenges with conversation. So talking about preferred topics for extended periods without checking in with others, that's very common. And since our first course, our first unit was on conversation skills, we have these skills come up a lot in the videos. So some students will overshare overly personal information in different contexts. We'll see a lesson that addresses that specifically. And then again, some people have difficulty understanding the social impact of their actions on others. So some really cool strategies for helping students with theory of mind are reminders to check in with other during conversations. So you can use things like talking sticks or talking items. You can use timers. So a lot of us might have an internal timer in our head where we kind of will be like, been talking for a while. The other person's looking a little bored. Ding, ding, ding. I should probably ask them a question or give them a chance to talk. And for some students, that's not there. It's not intrinsic yet. And so it can help to use external prompts to help build that skill more intrinsically. And that's also where our course can come in and other things like that. There's also really good perspective taking activities like hot topic discussions. Doing a lot of role playing is really helpful. We will have opportunities in our video where there are built-in pause points where you can stop and role play a skill with a student so they can better learn that skill. So here's a perspective taking example that I wanted to walk through. Unfortunately, Chris couldn't be here tonight, so I'll act out both roles. But here's Chris and I. We're both smiling. We're both feeling really good. We are thinking that it's nice to see each other, and we are going to say that in a friendly way by saying, "Hi, Chris. Hi, John." So we're just doing a basic greeting back and forth. And our thought bubbles about each other are really positive right now. And then I'm going to bring up, hey, remember, Chris, how I won that basketball game yesterday? And this is assuming that Chris is on the other team. And Chris is going to say, yeah, I remember. And his face is going to completely change. And he's going to start thinking, Chris is thinking how frustrated he is about that game. He's wondering why I'm bringing it up. Maybe I'm taunting him, I'm shoving it in his face. But meanwhile, John, I'm only thinking that I'm just excited. I won the game and I'm really excited about it. I wanted to talk about it. But I'm not really thinking about Chris and that he lost. He was on the losing team, so he probably doesn't have the same positive thoughts that I do. So then I transition a little bit later and I say, hey, Chris, do you want to sit by me at lunch? And Chris says, no, not really. Chris is thinking, I don't want to sit by him. He's just going to keep taunting me about that game. And then I'm confused. John is confused because I don't get why Chris is really mad. And we always sit together. And I'm not understanding why Chris turned me down. So I'm missing a lot of cues, and I'm missing a lot of the reason why Chris might be upset with me. And then might not go this fast in real life, but it's quickly devolving into insults and us being really mad at each other. So I say, you're so mean for not sitting with me. And then Chris calls me a name and says and then we're both thinking that we're really mean and rude. So it didn't take that long, and we kind of ended up having a pretty negative interaction because we weren't interpreting each other's theory of mind. I wasn't looking at Chris's facial expressions. I brought up a topic that was a sore subject for Chris, and then it kind of dissolved from there, went downhill pretty fast. So some of our course is to help students be able to break through this, be able to interpret what's in other people's thought bubbles, right? Because that can help lead to more successful conversations. Another aspect of communication that we emphasize in our course quite a bit is physical presence. It's the importance of how our body is doing in space in relation to others. We talk in some of our videos about body language quite a bit, which is how we communicate quite a bit of information to people. So we talk about body language, we talk about tone of voice, we talk about what, say, for example, someone's arms being crossed, what that might mean. And for a lot of students, they might have difficulty reading these nonverbal cues. They might have difficulty interpreting body language in others, and they might also have difficulty understanding what to do when someone's words don't match their body language. We saw that a little bit in the last example with the stick figures, where I kind of missed Chris's facial expressions, and I didn't see when he was kind of getting upset about the topic. And so this is a really important skill. I also see, especially with younger students, I see that there's a lot of challenges with our space in proximity to others and knowing our body awareness like in that space. So this is where you see students who like bump into other people. They have difficulty standing in line without kind of bumping around into people. And they're not even doing it in like a malicious way. It's just a lack of body awareness. Some people might be a little too touchy-feely, and then other people might kind of turn their body away and be very closed off. So it can go both ways. We all know those close talkers, very loud talkers, and they really have an important point. They get right up in your face. That can happen. There can also be a lot of difficulty respecting others' personal space, not just with their bodies, but with their stuff. Like maybe they're in other people's desk space, maybe they take other people's things without asking. There's a lack of awareness that personal space actually extends to like people's things too, in a lot of ways. A lot of times I see conflicts with siblings and they have trouble respecting each other's like, the bedroom is a private space for their sibling, for example. So we'll work with families on maybe you can set up some kind of system so that you can know when it's, okay for your sibling to have you come in the room versus staying outside. Um, Again, there's a lot of good pictures, videos, social stories for younger kids. That idea of a space bubble for older kids. There's the language of like you're being an invader of people's space. I think that's kind of harsh, but just that idea of increasing our awareness around personal space and what our body language is communicating to people. I do think it's important too that we just give direct cues to people, to students when they violate personal space, not in a mean way, but just in a very direct way, because they may not have that intrinsic awareness, and that can help to build those skills for them. We also talk a lot about social rules, and I think this is a little bit of a sticky subject, so I'll just be honest about like my perspective on social rules. I think so. This video is very much geared towards students who are, um, you know, have the potential to say work a job in the future, or have the potential to go to college or go to high school or all sorts of things. And so I do think that there is a value to social rules, not in the sense of, oh, we should shame people who don't follow the conventions of um, America or whatever, but in the sense of I do think that if we want students to be successful in various areas of life, especially down the future as they get older and stuff like that, I do think it's really important to teach some of these implicit social rules and to help make them explicit for students. I think this helps them to be socially successful, which can lead to greater self-esteem and greater friendships and all the positive things that come out of that. And I think it can also help them be successful, like I said, later in life with jobs or things of that nature. So social rules do change between contexts, of course. So even in a school, like the rules in the lunchroom are different than the playground, are different than a classroom. And so it can be hard for students both to be aware of those changes and to transition between environments, especially when it's an abrupt transition, like, okay, recess is over, back to the class. You have to take who you were at the recess at the playground and you have to rapidly tone it down and rapidly change it to be ready for a classroom. And if there's not some extra transition time built in, that can be very hard for students. Sometimes, not always true, but sometimes, usually, the best way to find out how to act in an environment is to observe what the mass of people are doing in that environment. And then sometimes there will be rules posted. But the problem is that a lot of rules are not always posted. And so then you have all these implicit rules that are just kind of assumed by a lot of people. But some students, again, don't have that like intrinsic awareness. So what our course tries to do is to take these implicit rules and to make them more explicit and concrete for students. I think that's a really big goal in our course. Our next unit that we're going to have launched in August is on friendship skills. And we talk even more about this in the friendship skills unit, as well as this conversation skills one that is out now, because there are so many implicit rules with like building friendships and with how we talk with people and with when it's okay to do this with someone and not. And again, then there's not always right or wrong answers per se, but there can be some helpful guidelines for students. And then finally, words are incredibly important. So I'm passionate about words, and this can be, verbal words, can be words through an AAC device, sign language. Words can be communicated in a lot of ways, but we use words to relate to others. We use words, this whole course is conversation skills. So words are a big purpose of it, a big point of it. So we talk a lot in the course about connected versus disjointed comments. We talk about staying on topic. We talk about how to join a group and be on topic with that group that's already pre-existing. And so it's really important that students start to build those skills. Challenges that I see in my practice and in schools I work at, a lot of off-topic comments, a lot of difficulty joining pre-existing discussions and groups that are already going on. So if a group is talking about, the new Doctor Strange movie that just came out, a student has to be able to like go up to that group of people. They have to be able to quickly listen in on what they're talking about without appearing to wait there too long and kind of appear creepy. And then they have to be able to slide in, like wait for a quick pause in the group conversation. They have to be able to slide in with an on-topic comment and then try to fit right in. And they also have to be aware if that group's being very welcoming or not. So there's about like 10 different skills that students have to do in the span of like 30 seconds, and adults have to do it too. And it's an incredibly challenging skill, and it creates a lot of anxiety. Just speaking for myself, I still get uncomfortable going to large parties or groups where I don't know a lot of people. I think a lot of us do, and that's because this skill right here of joining pre-existing groups is very hard. It's hard for a lot of people. It creates a lot of anxiety, and so we have a whole lesson devoted to that. And then there's also, there's strategies that we talk about, and we'll have some of these strategies will come out in the challenges that we give students in each lesson. But there's a lot of good visual activities you can do to build connected comments, conversation trees, conversation towers. And then I think just practice. I think the more you can practice, especially with peer groups and things where it's not just adults facilitating, I think that can be really helpful for students. And we'll talk a lot more about that in our course later too. So, all right. So we're going to transition. So those were the four big areas that kind of underlie a lot of our approach to social skills in our course. Those are some of our, our perspectives on it. And you'll see some of those concepts come out in our videos. And they underlie a lot of the learning that goes on. So what makes our course unique? I just want to give a really broad overview to everyone about our course specifically. So the first lesson is available for free, so you can try it out before you buy it. And it's available at this link here, and I think everyone has the handouts, hopefully, or it's advertised really well on the Therapro website right now. You should be able to find it pretty easily. I think it's under like social skills, social emotional. And yeah, you can check that first course out. And I would say the first lesson is very representative of what all the lessons are. We tried to be very, like I said, consistent and concrete. So it's not like every lesson is set up and organized very similarly with different topics, of course, but it's not like lesson one is not at all representative of the rest of the course. It will give you a really good view of like what the rest of the course will be about. Every lesson is organized very similarly. So check that out. That's really helpful. Like I said, we tried to be really concrete, really step by step. We tried to be very straightforward and direct with how we approach these skills. We did also gear our course for older students and even young adults, and we tried not to make it kind of kiddie-ish or childish, for lack of a better phrase. So I think you'll see that. You'll hear my voice narrating. You'll see PowerPoint style concepts. You'll see cutaways to Chris and I acting out different skills. You'll see pause points where they can practice the skills. There's not a lot of, I guess, fluff or like little animations or things of that nature. It's very cut and dry, and it's very, we tried to make it kind of mature and straightforward, like I said. We think it's easy to use for teachers, parents, and students. So even older students could do it independently, and I'll walk you through the course here in a little bit. Like I mentioned before, it's adaptable to a variety of learning environments. You could use it in a classroom as part of a whole group lesson. You could use it one-on-one with a client. You could also have a family do it at home on their own time. We have accompanying real-life challenges for students to go out and practice, first with people they know well, and then gradually to challenge themselves with less familiar people. We also have a quiz after each lesson to make sure that the student has at least paid attention. I would say the quizzes are not there to be super challenging, but they're there to make sure the student was retaining information and paying attention. We have live acting clips that demonstrate each skill. So I'm of the belief that role modeling is really helpful for students, and video modeling examples can be a helpful way. So you will see Chris and I acting out a skill, then you'll have a pause point where you and the student could act out a skill, and that's kind of how we set it up. There's human transcribed closed captioning, which is helpful. We have an affordable price point, which we'll talk more about later, and we are not subscription based. So you purchase once and you get lifetime access to the course. You don't have a reoccurring cost every year. Bulk license options are available if you are, and we'll talk more about that later, just technical stuff. We are also really feedback driven. So at the end of this course, we will have, or later in this presentation, we'll have a poll about what future lessons and units you guys would like to see us work on and develop. And then we are always taking feedback from our customers and from our users. So we are always open to that feedback, like, hey, could you think about this for your next video? Hey, could you maybe do a video lesson on this topic? I've seen this challenge with a lot of students I work with, and we're always taking that feedback into account. Even when we made this first conversation course, we sent out a survey to our early pre-subscribers of our first unit, our first video lesson, and we got their feedback before we finalized it. So we're really taking into account user feedback. We're a small enough company, it's just Chris and I, that we're able to do that. We're able to be very flexible and work with people. We're also able to give really personalized attention. So if you sign up for the first video free of charge, we'd be happy to email you. We'd be happy to talk with you about it. Be happy to do this kind of webinar or something similar to, say, if you work for a school, you want your school staff to be familiar with the course, I'd be happy to do an in-service like this. Just reach out to us. We have a lot of flexibility in that front, free of charge for anything like that. And then, like I mentioned, we do have our future course on friendship building that's coming out in August. We've also considered doing dating, assertiveness training, things like that. But again, we're open to your feedback. We'll have a poll question later for that. But these are just trying to kind of hit niche topics that are really important, but maybe haven't been tackled by as many curriculums as some topics have. So we have some cool ideas, but we're open to other ideas too. Oh, here it is. I guess it's right here. So what future course topics would you like to see us create? So some ideas we've had, like I mentioned, assertiveness, conflict resolution, dating, responding well to authority, and then anything else. I think it's got to be a multiple choice, but we'll try to, kind of suss through read between the lines for sure.
Yeah, you can definitely put your responses there in the questions pane if you want to put something else in there. All right. Looks like 59% are saying conflict resolution, 29% is the next big winner with responding to authority. We have 6% saying assertiveness, 3% saying dating, and 3% saying something else. So let's check out the questions and see what we have here. Conflict resolution, okay. All right, well, if you guys have any other ideas, then you can always put them in the questions pane and we can review those at the end of the webinar.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome. Thanks, Allison. Yeah, that's good to know. So conflict resolution seems like it would be a big one. So that's really helpful for us. We had that on our radar, but not in the near future, but maybe we'll likely move it up after this. So super helpful. Thank you. All right, awesome. All right, so jumping into the lessons. So we have 12 lessons in this conversation skills course. Our friendship one is probably going to be closer to 25, which is exciting. So the 12 lessons range between 3 and 8 minutes typically. They typically have 1 to 2 to 3 role-playing examples, and then, like I said, it's me doing the narration. So I'm going to be going over the following 3 lessons. I'm going to be jumping between screens. I have the course pulled up on another platform, so or on my website browser. So I'll be bouncing back and forth. So hopefully that'll work okay. The 3 lessons that we're going to do are going to be starting a conversation. It's going to be oversharing and undersharing, which we mentioned a little bit before. And then it's going to be understanding figurative versus literal language. So we tried to pick ones that kind of give a good sampling of different types of lessons. But first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the overall course platform and give you an idea of how it's set up. So if you buy the course, then you'd have access to this course platform. I'll just do a little overview of how to navigate it. So see 1 second here. All right, so hopefully everyone can see this. So this is what the course would look like when you're logged in. You'd have a dashboard and then you can log in. It's called the Conversation Skills Video Course. I completed it 100%, so I got my certificate, which was kind of cool. So the lessons are listed here on the left side. This is the first one. That's the trial lesson you can access for free on finding good conversation candidates. And then we have all 12 lessons down here on the left. We're going to do starting a conversation. So you would have the video. This one is 5 minutes. You'd have the video right here, and then you also have a quiz at the end that you can access. And I'll walk through all that. So we'll jump into lesson number 2 on starting a conversation. So down here at the bottom, it's built in. It's just like a Vimeo video, basically. So you would just rewind, because I've already gone through all these with students. So every video will start with just our theme music and then we'll have the unit name, we'll have the lesson name. I won't do this for all 3, but just to give you. In the last lesson, we learned how to find good conversation candidates. So we'll have a quick recap of the previous lesson, because they all are interconnected. And then at the end, we have a quick preview of the upcoming lesson. So we try to keep it all attached pretty well, so that even if you're a couple weeks removed from doing the previous lesson, you get a quick reminder about what it was. In this lesson, we'll focus on how to start a conversation with someone you've never met before. Once you've found a good conversation candidate, here are 3 things you can do to begin the conversation. So in almost all our videos, we try to break things down into, say, 3 steps, 4 steps, 3 tips, 4 ideas. So we try to keep it numbered. We try to keep it really organized and bullet pointed. Even though that's not 100% how real life works, it does help for the flow of the course. And I think a lot of our students that we're targeting with this course have a very concrete mindset, and so this will help break it down for them. First, you need to approach the person and offer a polite and friendly greeting. A polite and friendly greeting includes saying hi or hello, waving, smiling, and facing the person. So again, we're trying to take skills that involve a million moving parts, and we're trying to simplify them down into 3 or 4 explicit tips or pointers for how to do that skill. So this one, we broke down a greeting into saying hi or hello, waving, smiling, facing the person. There's a lot more that technically goes into a greeting, but of course, for the purposes of this, we thought these were the key points, and we tried to extrapolate those out. Here's an example of what that might look like. Hey there. Now pause the video. So this is a really quick video because it's just saying hi, but you can see how it then cuts to a video example. This is my friend Chris and I. We do all the acting so far, although we're going to try to get other people in the future. And we are demonstrating how to say hi or hello. And so then, and take some time to discuss and practice this skill using your own style and words. So this is the stock phrase that we use for a pause point. Practice it in your own style and words. So you just hit the pause button, of course, and then you could take some time with the student or the classroom you're working with, or your child, and you could work with them on practicing this skill.
Second, wait to see if the person shows interest by returning a smile, saying hi, and looking near you. Third, if the person shows interest, you can introduce yourself. Introductions include saying your name, for example, "Hi, I'm Chris." Most likely the other person will share their name too, but if not, you can ask for their name. For example, "And what's your name?" After they say their name, you can then say something like, "Nice to meet you." This can be a good time to offer a handshake or something similar.
So that second point, going back to this one, I'll go back a little bit. So this one did not have a video role-playing example, which not all the points do, but a lot of them do. Excuse me. And then moving on to step 3, introducing yourself. Again, we're trying to take a pretty complex topic, and we're trying to break it down into 3 or 4 consumable parts for the student. I use the word student a lot because I'm used to working in schools, but student, client, child. And then we're trying to break it into different parts. And then again, we're going to cut. I think this one has a.
Well, here's an example of what that might look like.
Hi. Hey, my name's Chris. What's your name?
Oh, my name's John.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
All right.
So we tried to have a setting that was, accessible to us. We don't have an actual studio or anything. And then also a setting pretty free from distractions. So where the students can really focus on us as the characters and as the actors and see what skills we're doing. We try to wear kind of similar clothing in most of them, and we try to kind of keep it really similar. Like most of these videos will be in the same setting with, like I said, similar clothing on. And so there's not a lot of other distractions for students to focus on. They can really just focus on the skill that we're demonstrating.
Now, pause the video and take some time to discuss and practice this skill using your own style and words.
So again, we have a pause point there, same script, time to pause the video and practice with whoever you're practicing with.
After the initial introduction, it can sometimes feel awkward to know what to say next. It's often best if you can find a topic that both of you find interest in. For example, you can ask about their recent or upcoming weekend plans. You can ask how their day is going. Or you can notice something about them. For example, a t-shirt they're wearing or something they're holding. You could also ask about a popular current topic that you're interested in, such as a new movie or a new video game. Listen to their answers and see if you notice anything that you can relate to. And here's an example of what that might look like.
So this video has 3 role-playing examples. So this is the third one we'll take a look at.
Hi. Hey, my name's Chris. What's your name?
Oh, my name's John.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Hey, are you a baseball fan?
Yeah, I'm a big baseball fan. I love the Mariners.
Cool, I'm a huge Mariners fan.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Cool.
So in this one especially, and in a lot of our videos, each role-playing video kind of builds on the skill that was learned in the previous one. So every video is kind of the same start. Chris says hi to me. He says his name. I don't really respond. And then every time, though, we add one more component to make it really step-by-step. So this time he added the component of using the visual clue of my sweatshirt to ask me if I like the Mariners, which I happen to do. Not all our videos are real, but this one was pretty accurate. So that's kind of how we approach a lot of these videos. We want them to build on each other and not just be out of left field.
Now, pause the video and take some time to discuss and practice this skill using your own style and words.
So we have our third pause point. I have found in working with my clients and students that each video, even if it's only technically a 5-minute video, when you have all the pause points and you have the times to practice, and you have some discussion around the concepts, it can fill up and you do the quiz at the end, it can fill up a 20 to 30-minute lesson time pretty well for each of these 12 videos for the most part. So you're able to kind of stretch it out past just the pure 5 minutes.
So to recap, here are the 3 things we talked about in this lesson.
So in every one of our videos, we do have a recap. We think it's really important to kind of say what we're going to say and then quickly say it again to increase retention. So every video will have a quick recap.
First, offering a polite and friendly greeting. Second, waiting for interest. Third, introducing ourselves. Remember that starting a conversation can be very challenging, so it's okay to feel nervous. Even if it doesn't go according to plan, don't get discouraged and keep trying.
So a lot of our videos kind of have like a final thought in them. A lot of times it's a note of encouragement or it's an idea of how important the skill is. And so we try to throw that in there near the end.
For some next steps, you can take the quiz that goes with this lesson.
So every single video will also have next steps, and one of those next steps will always be the quiz, and then the second next step will be different depending on the lesson.
Try practicing starting some conversations with people you already know.
So that's an example of one of our real world challenges. So this is an early lesson, like it's pretty early in the course. So we want the students just to practice some conversations with like a family member or a friend that's already a good friend. So it's not too overwhelming for them, but it gives them some way to generalize it.
And in the next lesson, we'll go over how to maintain a conversation.
So then at the very end, like I mentioned, we preview the following lesson because everything interconnects. All right, so that's that. We'll do the quiz real quick, and then I won't go through the whole videos for the next 2, but I'll just give you little snippets of them. So here's an example of our quiz. So which of the following would be a part of a polite and friendly greeting? Select all that apply. So it would be this one, number A. So again, not super challenging, but just make sure they're paying attention and have a fairly basic grasp of the main concepts. So you would click on A, you'd hit confirm. It's correct. Awesome. We go to next. What would not be included in a polite and friendly greeting? So usually slapping the person on the back unless you have a unique relationship with them. So we do that. We get it right. If you get it wrong, it just turns red, and you can keep going, but just at the end it'll say you got 75% or whatever. So this one you can select more than one right answer. So a lot of them let us do that, which I think is really good. So saying hi, smiling, and looking, those are the 3 correct ones. And then we have a lot of scenario questions in some of them. So we're trying to make these somewhat realistic for scenarios that students might encounter. So this one, you meet Kevin at the chess club, and he's wearing a Star Wars shirt. So he probably liked chess and science fiction movies. That's a good guess, educated guess. All right, we got 100%, awesome. So then you would continue if you had the whole course. Then I've already finished it, so at the end you get a certificate. And then if not, you would just go to the next lesson, which would be lesson 3. So that's that. We'll bounce back to the PowerPoint real quick. All right, so that was the first lesson on starting a conversation. So our goals for that lesson were that students would learn to initiate a polite and friendly greeting. They would learn to gauge others' interests in talking with them, and they would learn to make introductions for, say, someone new they'd never met before or didn't know their name. Like we saw, there's a lot of opportunities for implementation after the video examples, and there's an opportunity for students to generalize at the end of each lesson. And then a lot of the people in this presentation work in the school system. So we also have example IEP goals for each lesson I'll be going over today. That's not a part of our course right now, but we could easily add that in the future if we find that a lot more districts and people who work in school systems start picking up our course. We could have some built-in IEP goals. So our example we came up for this one would be that by June, we just made up a date. When given opportunities to practice in a lunchroom setting, the student will make a polite and friendly greeting with their peers, improving their conversation skills, and so on. So that would just be one example. There would be you could probably pull out dozens of IEP goals from that one video, but that's one we came up with. And if you reach out to Chris or myself, Chris again has that special ed background. I've also worked in schools. I used to be a teacher, so we would be happy to help you come up with more ways to use it and line it up with IEPs and with state standards and all that. All right, so the next video I wanted to preview, we won't watch the whole thing on the next one. I just wanted to do that for the first one, but we'll watch some snippets. And the next video is on the topic of oversharing and undersharing, which we thought was a really relevant and fun one. So oversharing, we talk about having a timer in our head, watching for when the other person gives clues that they're looking bored, like looking away or sighing. And then we talk about that maybe then it's a time to give the other person time to talk and how we can do that. And then we also, so this is like a two-part video. So we go over oversharing first, you'll see, and then we do the undersharing half. So for undersharing, the key points we come up with for our video are to students to avoid one-word answers, listen carefully, provide thoughtful replies, and keep it brief but detailed. We also, I think, talk about some emergency situations when we really don't want to undershare. And again, there's implementation time, there's generalizing at the end, opportunity to do that, and there's an example IEP goal we came up with. So I am going to bounce back over to the oversharing and undersharing lesson and watch a few minutes from that. So we'll go down. So that's actually quite a bit further down. So we go through maintaining conversation back and forth. We talk about how to politely end a conversation instead of just saying bye and walking away. It's a little abrupt. We talk about this really complicated skill of joining a group conversation. And this is the one video where we did have a third guy join us for this filming. And so Chris is able, I think it's Chris, he's able to try and join myself and this other guy, Devin, and he's able to slide into our game of Uno that we were playing. We have picking conversation topics, conversational turn taking, and then we get to our oversharing and undersharing that we'll preview. And if there are any other videos that you guys would be especially curious about at the end, since you're in this webinar, which we really appreciate, you can put it in as a question at the end, and I'd be happy to jump back on this platform and show you guys a snippet or even the whole video of any other video that you're interested in, besides the three we thoughtfully picked for this. But if there's another one that jumps out at you, oh, I really want to see what that one's like, just let me know at the end. So again, previous lesson, this lesson, important to share the right amount of information. So here's what the oversharing part looks like. So watch out for oversharing. We talk about that. And then we talk about another type of oversharing, and then we'll do...
This is a big and challenging topic, and we will discuss this skill further in a future lesson.
So there are some times where we don't want to get too into a kind of a side topic that could go on. And so then in those situations, we will say that we're going to talk about it later, either later in this unit or later in a future unit that we develop, like friendship skills. And so we will, we are going to follow through on that and make those future lessons. We do try to keep each of these videos like fairly focused to the topic at hand, but as everyone knows, it's also interwoven and interconnected. So
here's an example of what can happen if we overshare.
How was your weekend?
Oh, it was good, man. I did some moving. I moved from 125 Northeast Everest Street to 357 Southeast Woodridge Street. So I did a big move this weekend. I had to pack all these boxes, so I was packing up all my bathroom stuff. The guy was packing up my hair dryer.
So you can see this is pretty over exaggerated, but Chris is showing me all sorts of nonverbal cues. We had fun with this one. But Chris is showing me all sorts of nonverbal cues that I'm missing, that he's ready to leave as I keep going on and on. And so that's something that even mid-video you could pause and talk with the students about.
I had to pack up my soap, I had to pack up my shampoo, I had to pack up all my bedding, I had to pack up all my toys, like all my video games. I packed up all my games. I sorted them individually. So I shrink wrapped all my
Actually, was there anything else? Because I actually had to get going.
Oh, okay. No, that's all. I just was moving this weekend.
Oh, okay.
All right.
So in that one, Chris finally interrupts me and ends the conversation and has to leave. And then this is one where we have kind of an unexpected example, and then we follow it up with an expected example.
Yeah, I'll see you. All right, bye. Now pause the video and take some time to discuss and practice this skill using your own style and words. Instead, we should share a short amount of information about a topic and then pass the conversation back to the other person by asking them a question or pausing and giving them a chance to talk. This is a similar concept to taking turns back and forth in a game. Here's an example of what this might look like.
So then this is kind of a redo of what we just did where I went on, and this time I redo it and try to make it more back and forth.
Hey, how was your weekend? Oh, it was pretty good, man. I actually was doing a lot of packing because I moved last weekend. Just moved a little ways away. So, okay. Yeah, I was doing a lot of packing. Cool. Are you still going to be going to the same school? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I think so. Cool. How was your weekend? Yeah, not bad. I had some chores to catch up on and some homework to do, but I mean, it was kind of boring, actually. Yeah. Well, I actually got to get going to class, but I'll see you later. All right, cool, man. I'll see you later. Sounds good. Bye.
Now,
So that time it was the same kind of starting topic of conversation, but it demonstrates the difference between the example A, the previous one, and this example B. And so students can directly see that contrast back to back of what a more back and forth, not oversharing conversation would look like about the same topic. And then this one, like I mentioned, it's two-part. So there's also undersharing. So we talk about undersharing. And then we talk about, like I mentioned, kind of emergency examples, like if there's a bullying incident at school or somebody gets hurt and there's a EMT there. Like you definitely want to be accurate and give thorough information, right? We also try to make sure our examples cover school settings as well as for some young adults who might be in the workplace, that they also cover work settings. So most of our examples, we try to also give examples across a range of settings that students and young adults might be in.
skill further in a future lesson. Here's an example of what can happen if we undershare.
Hey, man, how was your weekend? It was okay.
Yeah, did you do anything fun?
Not really.
Oh, all right. Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, cool, man. Well, it's good to see you. I guess I'll talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Now pause the video.
So this is another one where we do a contrast. So Chris is obviously undersharing quite a bit in that one. And then we try to do kind of a converse example of what it would sound like if we were not undersharing that much.
Hey, man. How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. Actually did some chores and caught up on some homework. Been a little bit behind on that.
Oh, nice. Good job.
Thanks. And how was your weekend?
Oh, it was fun. I went to a Mariners game and just hung out with some friends.
Awesome. Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's pretty chill. I actually got to head to class now, but it's good talking to you.
Good talking to you.
All right. See you later, man. Bye.
All right, so that was a contrast example again. So this one actually had 4 videos, which is pretty cool, but they were, 2 of the same scenarios each time, just contrasted styles. And then we again do a recap. Like I mentioned, we'll always have a recap. Then we will always have a final word like encouragement. And then this one's actually one of the longer ones. This is pushing 7.5 minutes on this one. We'll have some next steps, take the quiz. And then this challenge is to be aware which one's harder for you. So this is more of a self-reflection challenge. They don't always involve other people. So this one we just want the students to journal or just think about, what's harder for them? What are their tendencies? I think self-awareness is huge for building in our students and young adults that we work with. And so we have a lot of self-reflection challenges as well. And then we do a next lesson preview. So very similar structure, like I said, in every video. So that's the second one. I'll go back to the PowerPoint here. We came up with an IEP goal for this one, that students will provide sufficient information when asked a question. So this would be more targeting a student who undershares a lot, that they would give more details. But again, there's tons of IEP goals you could come up with. All right, and the next one is a little bit different topic, but we thought it'd be really good to do one of these. And it's on figurative versus literal language, which is very connected to conversation skills, although it's not directly always in every conversation, but it's a really important skill when you're talking to people. So we break down the course objectives up at the top there. Watch out for those nonverbal cues. Consider how ridiculous the literal interpretation would mean. So this involves things like hyperbole and idioms, metaphors, as well as interpreting those nonverbal cues. This one also has, positive, negative, unexpected, expected examples. I try not to use a lot of words like negative or bad, or good, things like that. And then we have a generalizing, kind of a take-home goal for students, and then again an IEP goal. So we'll watch just a few snippets of this video too, because it's a little bit different than some of the others. We'll go right here. So it is the next to last video. So figurative and literal language and sarcasm kind of work together. So those are 11 and 12 to wrap up the unit. And those are definitely have some overlap. I think they're both really important skills that we wanted to wrap up with. So this lesson is understanding figurative versus literal language. We talk about a bunch of examples. We talk about, again, concrete, right? Like 1, 2, 3 steps, 3 clues, 4 steps. So that's really how we break down almost all our lessons. So first, you got to think about the situation. Do the words make sense, or are they confusing in that context, right? Do they match the topic? Then we got to watch for those nonverbal cues, facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice. And then we need to think about, are they using humor or not? Because humor is closely connected to figurative language and sarcasm in the next lesson too. And then we need to think about, what would an actual literal interpretation mean? How ridiculous would that be if we were going to be overly literal? Would it make sense at all? Would it be very silly or absurd? I think I give the example of like keeping your eyes on the whiteboard. If you literally put your eyes on the whiteboard, that would be very unexpected. And then we give a little cue here. And then we have our example video we'll watch real quick.
You pretty good together this weekend? Oh man, I told you a million times I got a bunch of stuff going on. I can't get together.
So the figurative language I use is, of course, a million times. It's an example of hyperbole.
A million times? I thought I only asked you a couple times, and I was going to follow back up with you to see if you agree.
So Chris kind of takes it personally because he doesn't understand exactly what I meant when I said a million times. And then I kind of have to overtly explain it to him.
Oh, yeah, I don't mean like actually a million times. Just like you've asked me more than once. Like you've asked me several times. Oh, okay. Well, maybe we can try again next weekend. Yeah, that sounds good. I should be free next weekend.
Let's try that again.
So this one is just back to back. There's an unexpected example and a more expected example. And you'll see, let's try that again with this symbol. And that will happen when we do contrasting videos back to back in this course.
Here's another example of what can happen when we are more aware of figurative language.
Hey, so you free to get together this weekend? No, man, I told you a million times I got some stuff going on. I can't get together. Oh, yeah, sorry. I know I've asked a few times. Maybe we can try again next weekend? Yeah, next weekend will be way better. Cool. That sounds good. Looking forward to it. All right, cool, man.
Now pause the video and take some time to discuss and practice this skill using your own style and words.
So again, we have a pause point. This time the pause point is after both contrasting videos because they are back to back. Because we want the students to be practicing. They'll laugh and get a kick out of the unexpected videos, but we really want them to be practicing the expected skills that we're teaching them. And we got our recap again. Our next steps. So again, there's a quiz. And then be aware at times when people are using figurative language and how you're interpreting it. And then our last one is sarcasm. And so we preview sarcasm. And this quiz I wanted to show you too. So this quiz is a lot of scenario ones. I think it's all scenarios. And it's scenarios using like hyperbole, idioms, things like that. So the student has to interpret what the phrase piece of cake means in that context. They probably have heard of that one before, but in case they haven't, they can maybe use the context to try to figure it out. And then the second quiz is an example of where the mom says, stop being a couch potato. You guys need to get outside and run around. And they have to figure out what couch potato means. If they haven't heard that before, they can use the context clues, or maybe they just know what it means. Good chance that they do. And then this one, your teacher says you're making me pull my hair out. and then what the teacher says. I'll get this one wrong on purpose. And then it will just say, it will say, and then it will give you the correct answer. So, and then it would say you got 67% because there were only 3 questions on this one. And you can always retake the quiz if you want to try it again. So, all right, that's the 3rd lesson I wanted to preview. But like I said, I'm happy to go back and do a few more. We'll leave plenty of time at the end for any questions or additional things you guys want to see at the end. All right, going back here. So our IEP goal for this one is that given examples of figurative language, they'll respond in a way that demonstrates they know the intended meaning and improving their functional language. So another, again, a bajillion IEP goals you could come up with for this massive topic, but that's one that we came up with just to, as an example of how you could do that. All right, so in review, hopefully this was very helpful for you for providing a framework to help a variety of professionals and families understand the value of learning conversation skills and some of the perspectives and some of the approaches that we took when we were designing our course in terms of our background and in terms of the underlying concepts that we used in developing the course. Hopefully you feel comfortable and familiar with the course, that if you were to buy it or you were to preview it tomorrow, that you would be able to navigate the platform and be able to use it effectively with students or other people in your life, or use it for yourself. Hopefully you learned what several of the lessons look like and how to apply them with students, how to do a lesson with them, and then how to help them to generalize those skills, and then also how to write IEP goals about those skills that are in the videos. And then, yeah, again, generalizing conversation skills. You saw that with the real world challenges and the quizzes. That's the purpose of that. So a little more of the nitty gritty before we wrap up. You can buy this course, like I said, on Therapro.com. Right now there is an awesome discount going on. So individual license, which means that you can use it. And you could, so if you were a therapist and you bought an individual license, you could play the course when you are present with a student, but we would discourage you from like giving all your students like the same login, right? So if you were gonna send it home for students to use, either their family would have to buy another license, or you'd have to buy a bulk license that you could then distribute to your families you work with. But an individual license is $71.10 right now. And then bulk licenses can be assigned by the student. So if you were like a teacher and you had a whole class of 25 students and you wanted your school bought a license for every student in your class, like say they're all older and they can be independent on computer work, and they all have their own computer at school, like a lot of schools do now, then you could buy 25 bulk licenses, or 26, I guess, and you would have control of all your students. You could see how they're doing on their quizzes and their progress on the course, and they would each have their own unique login. You could also do it if you were in charge of a large school, like the principal, or you were the head of a large clinic. You could buy a license for each one of the professionals or each one of your teachers, and then each teacher would have one for their classroom, and you as the principal or the head of the school or clinic would have access to overviewing the course. You'd have a platform where you could see how all the teachers are using it and how it's going. And that would be like if the teachers were going to be projecting it up on the whiteboard in their classroom and doing whole group lessons with it. So please contact Therapro if you are interested in bulk licensing options, and then they will contact us, and then we will get you that tiered pricing. So more licenses that you buy for your organization, you get a bigger discount. But that's not, if you just go to Therapro and you buy like 20, say you buy 20 copies of the course, you wouldn't necessarily get that. So just make sure that you contact them first, and they'll reach out to us and we'll figure it out. All right, awesome. So that's a little bit of that, the technical side of it. And then I want to leave lots of time for questions. And then also if there's any specific lessons that anybody wants me to go back and preview, I would be happy to do that out of any of the 12. And then I can also talk a little bit more about our friendship course. That would be an option too, because we are almost done with all the scripts and stuff for that. And filming, we just have to finish it up, and then Chris is going to put all the videos together with his editing software. So, but we're excited about that next course as well.
All right, so some recommended next topics just to follow back on that poll question. We have social anxiety, we have interview skills.
Oh, that'd be a good one.
And we have starting, maintaining conversation, social anxiety, executive functioning, attention, memory, and impacting social skills. So I'll be sure to send those your way, Chris, so you have those in writing.
Awesome.
Another question, kind of suggestion here to help identify student domestic violence. Oh, sorry. Is there content to address abuse prevention to help students identify domestic violence and how to get help and tell someone something's wrong, safe boundaries, etc.?
Yeah, we talk about so in our friendship skills course that's coming out, we talk specifically about, there's a lesson on boundaries, like boundaries with friends, and we do talk about when it crosses the line and becomes inappropriate or stalkerish, things like that. And essentially our kind of blanket response to a lot of those things, because neither of us are trauma specialists or mental health counselors, but our blanket response to that is that you need to talk to an adult if things are feeling unsafe along those lines. So I should probably turn this off, huh?
Is bullying covered in that friendship course? That's another question.
Yep, we talked about bullying and teasing in that friendship course as well. So that'll be there.
Great. All right, another question coming through. Have you modified your course content or approach to take into consideration the perspectives that neurodiverse people have been sharing more recently on social skills teaching?
Yeah, no, that's a big topic. We are trying to walk that fine line between giving people skills that will help them kind of be, quote, successful or like successful in the world, and then also being respectful of neurodiverse approaches. I don't think there is, I could see us getting some feedback that we are trying to normalize students, and I would be understanding of that. That is not our mindset, but I do understand that some of the lessons come across, well, this is what's expected for this environment. Yeah, so it's always a fine line. I'm hopeful that it will be very helpful, and I think that is feedback that we have gotten from this course, and I think you will see even more thoughtfulness put into that in the future courses that we're making, like on friendship skills. So we are aware of that criticism, and we are taking it seriously for sure.
All right, any suggestions for communicating with nonverbal students?
Yeah, so this course is, I mean, you could tell it is geared towards pretty high verbal students. But I work personally in my practice with several nonverbal students or students with, AAC devices, sign language. We did, I mean, really all we could do, we added that closed captioning. And then I think some of these skills are translatable, like the personal space and like things like that. But no, this course is definitely geared more towards, especially this conversation skills unit is geared more towards pretty highly verbal students. But hopefully in some of our future courses, we can address more nonverbal students or topics that would be helpful for them.
All right, we do have a comment here. Very interested in the goals and objectives inclusion for future courses. So some little bit of feedback.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I think we can definitely, even in our friendship one, it's not finalized yet. We could even start putting in some IEP, you mean like IEP goal suggestions and things like that. I think that's very doable.
Exactly. All right, I'm going to switch over screens here. Is last call for questions. Any other ones, shoot them in the comments box while we are just switching over here. Okay, so another question coming in. What is the age range you serve? Is it elementary school age?
Yeah, in my personal practice, like 2-year-olds all the way through 25. But this course I would say is geared towards I've used it with upper elementary students I work with all the way through young adults. So I think this course is like geared for fairly high verbal levels, kids with fairly good verbal skills from upper elementary through